What's happening, guys? We're back here with part 2 of Skinwalker Ranch. Micah, how do you feel? How do you feel about this?
I feel like somebody that doesn't have any answers.
I'm so lost right now. I'm cold.
There's a lot of things that come up during this story that you're just like, is it possible? Or are these just a bunch of crazy people that wanted us to talk about a story that they made up?
Well, we talked about it. I'll tell you about that. Listen, mother trucker, we talked about it. No matter what, we covered all of it and then some. But yeah, anyways, guys, enjoy this episode. I had a good time with it. I hope you guys did too. And if you have any information about this stuff or this particular place or story and we missed something, please share it with us. Let us know. As always, please follow us on Facebook. You can look us up on Twitter. You can follow us on YouTube. If you go on there and you hit the big old subscribe button. Micah loves this part. Micah, what do they need to do? Which button do they do it with? What is it? You hit that button and you hit it hard.
Hit that like button.
Hit that like
subscribe button and you do the little
point
link down
thing
at it.
I think that only works if we put stuff in the links. And anyways.
Well, I mean, it's below the videos. The like button
true.
and the subscribe button.
True. Fair point.
Yeah.
Anyways, guys, I think that's about it. Far as our next episode. So I don't want to 100% say because we don't have it like completely solidified, but there's a chance that our next episode we're actually going to have some team members on or a individual on to talk about the Bigfoot man. And I'm kind of excited about it because #Bigfoot.
Bigfoot man.
Bigfoot life.
We know
matters.
it's a man. It's
well,
just a Bigfoot. It could be a female.
We should need both more than likely.
Should need. I mean, it could be asexual. Maybe.
Yeah, we
maybe
don't
it
know.
impregnates itself.
I mean, there are things in nature that do that. Well,
you want to know why we don't know?
Yeah. Oh God, here we go. Why don't we know, Micah?
We've never seen a Bigfoot.
That's false. That's false. You and I have never seen a Bigfoot.
Nobody in the history of ever has seen a Bigfoot.
The French toast ever.
There's no way in the 21st century that if someone's seen a Bigfoot, we don't have a crystal clear 4K picture of the Bigfoot.
Listen, guy. 4K mother trucking picture. So, dude,
I'm just saying, everybody's walking around with one of these right
woods,
here.
If you're hiking, dude.
Who hikes without a freaking phone?
I don't know.
Who hikes without a phone? You tell me. Every mother trucker ever has got one of these things now. They all take fantastic pictures.
Listen, I'm telling you, my phone takes decent pictures, but a swipe, if something's running or the kids are moving, I have a lot of blurry pictures of my kids. So, anyways, this is why we're going to bring an expert on for this, because I want to present Bigfoot with absolutely we need to approach it in a manner like you're doing. We need to critically evaluate if this is a possibility or not. But at the same time, I also want someone who's got some good background on him to bring him up and bring him to you guys, our listeners, so that he gets a fair shake of the stick at least, right? I mean, that's fair enough. Can we at least do that for Bigfoot?
It's fair, yeah. I'll hear it out.
We'll shake his stick. It's okay. We'll, Anyways, guys, enjoy this episode. And great job, Micah. Good job. We should just have you do a solo one now. We need to do a solo something of just you covering whatever. What would you do it on?
We'll see.
I mean, we've had people have asked you to do it. Joe asked you to do one.
I guess if people would really
even if it was
like
a
me to do a
15-20-minute
solo
one, you could just do a rant about Joe Biden. All right, that's enough. Here we go. You guys aren't here to hear about politics. Let's go.
Creepy Joe right now.
Skinwalker Ranch Part 2, baby. Let's go. What's happening, guys? We are back with Skinwalker Ranch Part 2, Episode 18, I guess you could say, even though it's a continuation of Blue Balls, which we're great at bringing you here on the B.O.B.B show. When we critically evaluate things, let me tell you, we approach things in a manner that's like no other. I'll put it that way. So, Micah, how did you feel about everything that happened in the previous episode and everything that you shared? Do you have any thoughts you want to put out there about it before we really dig into the second half here?
No, I don't think so. Other than the thoughts I already shared in the first episode.
True.
For this, I think a lot of it is maybe not accurate, but
well, I think the conclusion was, if we were just going off of Terry. Wait, did I say that right? Yeah, Terry, right? Yeah.
Terry.
Sorry,
Terry Sherman.
Well, it's weird because in some of the research, some of the people like disguise their names, so different names and stuff. But yeah, so Terry, he seems to be the one who had a majority of the events or incidents occur directly to him, outside of his wife with the hilarious little ghost or poltergeist, whatever you want to call it, who's just completely screwing with her on the groceries and different stuff around the house, which I personally think is hilarious. But what we're going to be dealing with here in the second part has to do with hopefully some other incidents besides just him. So if that's going to help validate, I don't know if that's the term I should use on this, but if that's going to help validate any of this for you guys, we are going to bring you some other information besides just what Terry himself experienced in his family. Because there's a chance that Terry was doing some serious lines of cocaine on the ranch and was ranching real hard, if you know what I'm... Dude, if somehow he ever listened to our show, listen, I apologize. It's just in good fun. You even have to admit yourself. I'm sure if we sat down and talked to the guy, could you imagine if we had him on the show? Like, do you think we asked him, like, did you ever feel like you were going crazy at any point? I mean, the guy had to have felt like... I don't know. I don't know what he felt.
It said that he thought it could be like military experiments, right? So
that is true.
If you thought it was that, then you probably wouldn't think you were crazy.
Well, I'm still not ruling completely. I'm not completely ruling out Cabin in the Woods, because with the sounds coming from the ground and these random creatures popping up, there's a chance that that's where the movie came from. It was based off of this. But anyways, okay. So I know we mentioned it a little bit in the last episode, but to help refresh my memory and our listeners' memories a little bit, as we mentioned, Terry and them reached out to the newspapers, and it does sound like they were on the verge of bankruptcy, and they were already pretty distraught. His wife, for one, was like, I am done, we're leaving, which I'm surprised that didn't happen a little bit earlier on. But to be fair, the almost exact timeline on this between purchase and then them leaving is only roughly 15 and a half months. So, I mean, yes, a lot of crap happened, but it's not like... I don't know, it's not like this was just all like, I don't know. Enough happened, I think I would have been packing up, but apparently Terry's a stubborn man and didn't want to be pushed off his land, so it is what it is. But we then have Robert Bigelow. Wait, Bigelow, right? Bigelow, yes. Mm-hmm. That's a fun last name, Bigelow. Anyways, Robert and his team that he's established, known as NIDS, what was their exact, I can't remember the name of the, wasn't it like... National
Institute for Discovery Science.
So anyways, as we were saying, with the NIDS team, I don't want you guys to get the impression that, with Robert hiring these guys, as we said, he wouldn't have hired me, right? He brought in guys that he specifically said he wanted them to have a skeptical mindset on whatever it was they were studying. They wanted a logical explanation. So they're not going straight to interdimensional beings. He said leave pseudoscience at the doorstep, as it basically was. So with his team making the purchase in 96. That's right. They
it was
actually
July of 96, and they ended up moving to the farm in September.
Yeah, and that's basically we're going to start back up here tonight, and where Mike is going to take over and kind of start sharing this, and I'm obviously going to keep jumping in and out of it and sharing other crazy stories along the way if we miss something. There is one I'll see if it comes up in your story, and if it doesn't, I will tell the story at the end, because I'm not exactly sure the exact timeline that it fell in, whether it was like just before or just after these guys took over. So you go ahead and get started, but if you don't cover it, it's a messed up, crazy story. So anyway, so here we go. Part 2 of Skinwalker Ranch. Take it away. I know,
Part
right?
2.
Part 2.
So after Robert Bigelow purchased the farm, the ranch, whatever you want to call it, from
The
Terry,
plot of land.
in July, they got everything around, and they were able to move to the ranch in September. And they kept Terry there. Well, Terry offered to stay on as a ranch manager.
Yeah.
Because they still had some animals that they were using. They purchased some of his cattle to be like bait, basically. And then he also kept some of his cattle there, basically for the same purpose. I don't think I would have done that, but
I think the guy truly
maybe he thought
wanted
it
some
was
answers. You know what I mean? Because
coincidence, convenience to
That
keep
too.
some of his cattle there. But
because didn't he move his family to Idaho, I think, or something like that, right?
I don't know.
I believe that's where they
I
went
didn't
at
look
the
up.
time. So yeah, out of convenience, I'm sure with the cattle and the land, he probably didn't go buy some other massive, piece of land.
Wasn't
that
this in Idaho?
No. This is in Utah.
Okay.
The Utes.
I
Not to
don't
be-
remember that from the first episode.
That's right. I know we covered it like a week ago.
So the
Oh, you're a
NIDS
little-
team was made
a little
up
blurry.
of.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you. I don't know
I
why
hate
it goes.
you so
It only goes
much.
blurry like when you look down. No, you're perfect there. You're
God
beautiful.
dang, dude.
Take those glasses off and show me those sensual eyes.
Well, without the glasses, I can't read my notes.
All right, so
Well,
go
I mean,
ahead.
I probably
Proceed.
could, but-
I apologize. Look at that
so
ginger
it was-
beard too. God.
His group was made up of 25 members. That included some ex-military that were used for like security purposes. And it specifically, for me, it specifically named 2 key players. It was Eric Davis, was a physicist, and Colum Callagher, which is a biochemist. And so the 2 of them, as well as 2 other scientists that it didn't specifically name, so I don't know who they were or what their field was. But from what I read on it and watched on it, it was 4 scientists and assistants actually moved there, and so they were living on the ranch, and that first they wanted to kind of rule out anything like far as the family being psychotic or anything like that, and just making the story up. I mean,
What
to be
if-
honest, like
What if they're all just crazy, right? And they just spent millions of dollars to buy. Well, I don't remember where you actually bought this from, though.
I don't know. I don't know what he bought it
250,000 or something like that.
it's probably more than that. It's 500. I mean, that's like a square frickin' mile. Like,
I guess
that's
I
a lot
should
of
look
frickin'
that up.
land.
Yeah.
So they wanted to rule out any of that. They wanted to rule out environmental explanations as well. And they were unable to find anything like in the environment as far as like being a fault line or any type of odd something that might cause people to hallucinate or anything like that. And they weren't able to find anything like that.
Which is
but when-
important. I'm sorry. I was just say, which is like that's actually pretty important that I appreciate that they started. That should tell you guys too that these guys didn't come in like, no offense to any ghost hunters or anything like that, the actual ones out there, but like, I mean, the History Channel's like, I don't know, their version of ghost hunters sometimes, like they don't ever try to cover just rational explanations. It seems like they're just like if a light goes out, instead of being like, all right, how's the wiring in the house? Is there a short? Like they're just like that was it.
That was a ghost. Yep.
Yeah.
That
I
was
just
the
feel-
spirit of
I
Christmas
guess what I'm saying-
past.
I guess what I'm saying is I really appreciate these guys came in and are checking the things that make sense. Is like you said, where they were checking to see if there are even like berries or anything that could be releasing anything that could be causing them to hallucinate, right? So they might actually think they're seeing it, but it's just this mass hallucination.
Yeah.
But as you were saying, I'm sorry. Keep going. Continue.
So as I said, they moved in September of 1996, and then it said that the rest of 1996 was pretty uneventful, except for some lights that they saw in the sky, and that was about it.
Always with those lights. Were they blue? Did it mention if they were blue? Lights
No,
or blue?
it just
okay.
it just mentioned lights. So
I'm so mature.
then it then it went to March was the first big event that it mentioned. So this is like 6 months later. To be honest, I'm surprised that they're still there.
Well, 6 months.
Being
I mean,
pretty uneventful for 6 months. That seems like a long time.
you know they had to have thought this guy was lying. At 6 months, like if you were there for 6 months, right? If you're whatever part of the team, like if nothing's happened outside of like, all right, yeah, there's some weird light or whatever going on over there, but like after 6 months when this guy's like telling you these, listen, I swear to God, a 5 foot tall wolf crawled out. So I mean, you might be expecting a little bit more here than,
Yeah,
ooh,
for real.
there was a light over there.
There's some lights. Woohoo! So,
Oh, God.
like I said, March is the next event, 1997, and it said that his wife was there to help him out with some stuff. She wasn't living on the farm anymore or anything like that. And I don't believe he was either, but he worked there, obviously being the ranch manager.
Yeah, with all these guys taking over on the team, like these were all lab guys, right? Like they're super smart in what they do, but they were not ranch hands. They weren't used to being on a farm. So just as the natural, tending to the animals and stuff, like these guys probably weren't signing up to do that. So that's what he was there doing. Him and his, well, it sounds like occasionally his wife, she stayed away, but
yeah,
she
did come occasionally to help him out with different stuff. And it is I guess advantageous for me to mention that they had set up some basically dog kennels around the property. I think it said like 3 or 4.
Yeah, they had those watchtowers.
Yeah, it was like a
fence those
watchtower, and
off.
they had a kennel around it where they kept dogs that they used as like a biosensor, I guess, because animals are a lot more in tune with like presence and that kind of stuff.
I truly believe in that.
I do think animals can sense any type of spirit or something like that more than
certain ones seem to be more keen to it too. You know what I mean? Like, as far as directly where it's at. Like, no offense to cattle, but like, how we talked about how there was like cattle splitting and stuff before, like something might have been splitting them. Like, I feel like, say horse for in particular or dog, they like pinpoint, like they'll look in that area versus a cow that's just like uncomfortable. I do feel that. They're. I
think it's more like cows just don't care really. So I guess that they were out there, and they were there to tag some cows.
The babies, right? That they were born the month before
that had just been born,
or day before.
Yeah.
Sorry, day before.
I'm not sure if it was day before, but they weren't very old.
Yeah, they were. Newborns basically.
Yeah, and this was about. They had one calf that was about 100 yards away from the homestead, which they had tagged, and then they moved on to tag some more cattle. They said that it was about 300 yards away where they went to tag these other cattle. They had a dog with them. It might have been more than one. I'm not sure. They did have a dog with them. Yeah, and then the dog kind of went, kind of started growling. There was a musk smell, I guess, in the air.
I always love how much they mention that. Like, you'll hear that all the time with any of this stuff. It's like, even with Bigfoot, right? Bigfoot, there was a
heavy
musk. There was a heavy musk, if you know what I mean. I honestly almost, want to know what... Like, let's talk about that. What is musk? Like, I know I should probably know this, but, like... I don't know what musk... I don't... Every time they say that, I guess in my head, I always think of, like, a nature-ish smell that's, like, distinct. I don't know. Do you know what musk... I mean...
it's kind of like... I guess, for me, the best way that I can describe it is kind of like it's a very, like, heavy... it's almost like like you can smell the moisture, kind
Moist.
of. Yeah.
Nice.
So that's just the way.
So like
that
rain, almost like a rain, but not like
kind of sort of, but it's a
rain.
different kind of smell. It's like it's a heavy, overbearing. To me, it's overbearing kind of smell.
Hey, I appreciate you educating me. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I didn't know. I constantly through any of this stuff is always like then a musky smell.
Well, I mean, have you ever heard of
upon
like
us.
someone's their manly musk or something like that?
Yeah, but that always made, I mean, I've never taken it as a compliment. Like, when have you ever
It's
once
not
in your
usually.
life, when have you once ever went to somebody and been like, dude, I just want to tell you today, you really got a good musk
Really
smell
got a
going
good-
on.
yeah.
You
Yeah,
got
I
a,
haven't.
yeah. I've never done that once.
So these were, as we mentioned, they were upper echelon cattle ranchers. So these were Black
Yeah.
Angus cattle. As I said, they moved around 300 yards away. They tagged a few more cows. The dog started growling, and the mother cow that was close to that calf, I guess, started acting very strangely.
Well, she smelled the musk.
Almost like almost like she was like losing her mind.
Poor thing.
So they wandered on back over there, and they found the
goddamn.
calf. And so I'll start with the least relevant part, I guess. The ear that they had tagged looked like it had been cut off with a sharp instrument, is what it
Nope,
says.
that's the most important part right there, Micah. I'm telling you.
Yeah. So the tagged ear was missing.
Like something sharp? Might
Yeah,
have
just like
cut the
sharp
ear?
cut
Was
the
it
ear off.
not dull, sharp
No,
more than
sharp. Yeah, no jagged edges either. So now, besides that, it specifically says that the only thing left to this calf, that should tell you something. The only thing left to this calf was its head, its legs, and its spinal column, with some of its rib cage still intact.
See, I feel like this calf right here couldn't have been, and I feel like the story's a little misleading because you know how we just talked about. So to be clear for the people listening, the calves that they were tagging were relatively new, like within the week or a day old. You know, they were just tagging a bunch of them. But this particular calf couldn't have been a newborn because, as you're going to probably explain in a second here, they actually give the amount of meat approximately that was removed. And there's no way that was off of a newborn calf.
Do not have that.
Oh, I have that number, so I'll let you tell.
Okay.
But I'm thinking this had to have been like a relative. This couldn't have been a brand new calf because it was. They said approximately. Well, you go ahead and tell them what's going on first. They're walking up on the scene, ears chopped off, and what else is going on? So there's blood, right? Because clearly the ear, you know.
No, that's again no blood, just like the last cow that was missing.
Vampires,
Joe
darn
Gouges.
vampires.
No blood. So this thing basically was skinned from its neck down, and it was laying on its stomach.
Mm-hmm.
So its spinal column was up, and there was pretty much nothing there, except for, like I said, its head, its legs, and the spinal column with some of the ribs still attached to it. No blood, and the ear that had been tagged had been cut off.
It was weird because it said that roughly.
That's pretty significant.
Yeah, he said roughly 60 pounds worth of. Well, maybe it was a newborn calf because it said 60 pounds of meat. He's thinking, I don't know what's up my
Calf
head.
probably doesn't weigh quite 60 pounds.
That's what I was
so
thinking. That's what I was thinking. It had to been a couple months old or something.
It might have
you know?
been, at least somewhat.
But anyway, but the point being, there's a picture. We might be able to post it with this. But you're absolutely right. Like the feet completely, they said laid out to the side. I don't know why I'm doing with the finger thing because if you're just listening, it means nothing to you. But in a star formation, as it were, gently laid out, cut a circle around its neck, basically, and then just skin it from there down. No bone or no flesh, no meat, no skin, nothing except for the carcass down to, I think there was still skin from like the knee joints down, possibly on the feet or the legs, but stripped.
It wasn't that in depth of what I.
Oh well, sorry, I was just covering what.
But yeah,
anyways.
it was significant. I mean, anytime you're just like, this is no longer an actual whole animal kind of thing. And I mean, we're not talking super long. It doesn't take all that long to tag a calf. It's basically like you grab their ear and there's this little tool and it's click, done.
Yeah, I think it actually
it's pretty
said
quick.
25 minutes. They thought that roughly they've been gone about 25 minutes when they were over there. I could be wrong on that, but you went blurry again. Oh, you're back. Oh, you're perfect. There you are. It's just when you put your head down. I'm sorry. And just in case there's... Listen, for the one guy or gal who's watching us on YouTube right now, like, do it for you. Like, do it for you.
So
so
that
25
was
minutes
all
roughly.
I had for that particular incident.
Which
now
is freaking weird.
It doesn't say that there were any scientists or anything like that.
No,
involved
they
in
did.
that
They
part.
did call them out there though. So that's the only part where we got to evaluate. So again, here's another incident that's happening. Even though the NIDS team is on site, there's the 4 members like you're talking about. In the NIDS team, like, so the rest of them came out, and obviously the 4 that were there. That's where we got the picture from, which we can post on our Facebook page. So they did look at the scene as well. They, I believe, even searched the area. The only thing that they remarked, there was one thing. I can't remember if it was a print that they found or something. But there was basically nothing in the area that was significant to mention. The only thing that they did mention of any significance is the watchtowers we were talking about. How they had 3 separate watchtowers. They were fenced off with the kennels for the dogs. All the dogs at this point were huddled, like, hid in their house. And they did this for a couple days. So there was a weird presence, I guess you could say, that was upon the farm.
That was the next thing. It didn't give a date for this one, but it was between April 1st and March 9th, I believe. So within a couple weeks, possibly within a few days, because it did specifically, like you mentioned, that the dogs had stayed in the kennels for days, and they didn't want to come out. So this one, I did involve Terry and some of the scientists. I don't remember if it mentioned specifically who it was. Unfortunately, I didn't write it down. But there was Terry and at least a few other people out there. And they were driving it said a 4x4, so I don't know if it was a pickup truck or what. I would assume it was a pickup truck because he had a gun rack.
Good old beater.
And he pulled a gun and ended up shooting during this incident. So they
used a boomstick?
Yeah,
he pulled his 30-aught,
pulled it out, and he fired it 3 times.
Wait, we got what? What the French toast? All right, hang on.
So as they're going along, I guess they spotted. Now this I presume is at night.
Okay.
Because they had a spotlight out there, and they spotted 2 yellow eyes, or 2 what look like yellow eyes. You know, like if you shine a light at like dog eyes or deer or something like that, their eyes reflect back to you. So it said that they found 2 eyes 20 feet in a tree.
And Terry's first response was
to
blow
shoot
the
it.
crap out of that.
So Terry grabs his gun. He shoots. The eyes disappeared, and they heard a loud thud. So clearly he shot something.
Okay.
Somebody fell out the tree. It's Steve. They had no idea.
Have my night vision goggles on.
So after they hear this thud, they go to investigate, and they couldn't find it. They couldn't find any like blood or anything on the ground. And then apparently, as they're searching, Terry yelled that he saw it, and he fired twice more.
Terry's just shoot. He just wants to
likes
shoot
to
something
stuff.
at this point. I totally remember the story because then he says something along the lines of like, "I'm not going to let it get another calf," like or a cow.
Yeah, something
pissed.
like that. I didn't write that one. What he
forgot
said down. But yeah, he was pissed off that he was losing cattle to it, and he did not want it to kill any more cattle.
This is what's known as the supposed possibly Mothman sighting on the ranch. Right? I mean, it goes into more detail here about the shooting. Because did he hit anything in the second time when he took his 2 additional shots?
It just said he shot twice. It didn't specifically. I mean, like, it's nighttime. They had no spotlight on it or anything like that. It'd be pretty hard to.
Did you have any
tell if you
notes about
actually hit
prints or anything from this
The
incident,
only,
or no?
I did have that.
Okay.
They were able to find two footprints. They were 20 feet apart. So I mean, that
Holy
seems
crap.
kind of odd. Yeah. And then they had measurements of them. So they were 14 inches long. Which is, I mean, that's pretty significant. You imagine that's probably like a size
that's a
16
foot.
shoe or something like that.
Yeah, don't know off the top of my head. Yeah, probably. Yeah,
And
I'm
then
gonna
they
say
had
14.
huge claw indentations. So they had, it didn't give a measurement for how far
Yeah, that's
over
what
the
I'd wanna
claws
know.
went or how deep the claws went. But it did just say huge
Something.
claws.
Now, this is interesting, though, because if this is some sort of entity or being, it didn't react like the wolf, because the wolf just looked at him like, eh. And then this thing apparently actually either got scared and jumped from the shots, or was hit and then jumped to the ground and was shot at 2 more times by Terry doing cocaine and shrooms and shooting at any lights. It would
I
not
mean,
wanna
that's
be
a
in front
little
of-
presumptuous.
It
But
is. It's totally presumptuous. I would not. I'll say this. If I was out there with Terry, I'd want to be behind Terry, behind him, close that he knows I'm there, but behind him. I would not want to be where he might see a light and go, "That's it, you son of a gun!" and start shooting at things. So,
yeah, I mean, I would probably be that person.
so this was it that they found though. Just two separate tracks, 20
14
feet, you said?
inches, 20 feet apart.
And that's that.
Yep, with huge claws. That's that.
Well, this kind of blows because that's not really giving us anything. That's just
Yeah,
more
it
like
doesn't
"Hey,
really.
here's
just more
something
smoke.
that, like,
Blowing more smoke up our
it
rear.
really is, isn't it?
And then it specifically mentioned that on April 1st, another calf had vanished. And that later on, I don't believe it was the same day, but it was around the same time frame. His wife was out there to help him fix a fence and to tag a few more cows or calves, and that they had passed 4 prized bulls that they had on the property at the time. He said
yeah.
they had them there for
Out of convenience,
sake.
yeah. That's what I'm
Yeah.
thinking. His other property he must have gotten, or wherever they were at, couldn't have been that big. And he got 514 acres, so I mean, it's probably a lot easier to just drop
Yeah,
it
and
off there.
I don't know how much cattle are worth. I have no idea, but it gives roughly what these cows were, or these bulls were worth. And this is 1997, mind you. But it said that
did you say
between the
prize
4
bull?
was worth. It did say prized.
All right, I'll take a peek real quick while you're talking about it. I'll see if I can find any.
So it said that these 4 bulls were worth about 12 grand between the 4 of them. So
a little bit.
obviously that's $3 grand a piece. But I don't know how much. Like, if you chop a cow up, how much can you get out of it? Is it worth?
Well, I'm
more
assuming
to butcher a cow?
breeding. Well, he's probably if it's a prize bull, they're
Right,
just
but you would think
breeding
it would
them.
be worth more money than $3 grand if you're, But
Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah, you're really at that point. You're just making money off selling the seed of the lineage of that.
man seed.
The man seed. All right. Anyways, yeah, keep going. I'm just briefly looking how much a prize bull might cost. So
Okay. So anyway, they
I'm getting some of my info from
They passed
Beef
the-
Magazine right here.
oh Beef Magazine. I
Son,
didn't know
pass me
they had
that Beef Magazine.
They had a magazine. So they passed these 4 bulls going onto the property to fix this fence to tag a few cattle. So it took about an hour to fix the fence and to tag the calves that they were doing. And I know it specifically mentioned that his wife had expressed concern over having those bulls there.
She did.
and
Well,
saying
because of
something
the
about-
mutilation that had happened
Yeah.
with the calf, and then you got just really quick, because I don't want to. It's not really that important, but I'll at least mention it. It can vary because it's saying that if you're basing it on like the meat price, it's going to be roughly $2,000 to $4,000 a cow, depending on the amount of meat you're going to get. But it can be anywhere from, anywhere from $2,000 to over 10,000, but that's getting like upper echelon. Like,
And that's
it
probably
doesn't really
prices
matter.
now.
I'm just gonna say
So-
4 to 6,000 roughly each guy is worth.
Yeah, I would say with inflation and everything, it's probably
Yeah, because that was also from 2012.
they're like
too.
4 to 6,000, 4 to 5,000,
Fair
something
numbers.
like that.
I don't think anybody's gonna hold that against us. They're like, in episode 17,
Yeah,
part
for
2,
real.
Skinwalker, you said a cow could call a prize bull. Okay, so anyway, so his wife.
So as they're coming back, she expressed concern about how, because obviously, 12 grand, maybe it's not the end of the world for you, but 12 grand is not something to laugh
Well,
at.
they already went
especially
pretty much bankrupt.
yeah, especially
being at this
when
place.
you already had your own fair share of issues. And so she mentioned that it would really hurt them if anything happened to those bulls going in.
That is kind of
And
weird
as they're
to say,
coming
though.
back out, yeah. I mean,
Hey,
if you had a
we've
lot
had
of
a lot
cows,
of
you
weird
lost
crap
14
happen
cattle
here.
last
Yeah, I was gonna say,
when you lived there. So
I mean, that's a good point to bring up, too. Just really quick before we go any farther. If anybody here is listening going, all right, well, I think Terry's just doing this crap to get the attention. He's lying and spreading, like he's the one doing this stuff because most of these events have happened to Terry himself. The guy is wasting a lot of money if he's doing that. If he killed 14 of his own cattle last year, if we're just roughing it out, say they're $2,000 a piece, that's,
28.
However,
That's 28. Oh my god.
Oh my god! I'm sorry. I had to throw my math thing in again because I'm the best. But the point being, I'm just saying the guy is literally not only losing money financially, but if he's doing this, he's just completely destroying his reputation as a rancher too. So I don't know. I just putting it out there. That's just my little feeling on it.
So after that, they were coming back through after fixing the fence and tagging those calves. And the 4 bulls that were in this
Don't say
corral, pardon me, I guess you would call it.
their anuses had been removed.
No.
Oh, thank God.
They were missing though.
Oh crap! Dang it,
And
mother.
so they decided that they needed to find these bulls, right?
Well, yeah, no kidding. You
Yeah.
just left them.
So they start looking for them, and they had an old trailer, I guess, that they didn't use that was out in the corral.
I don't know. Yeah, okay.
And
You're talking
so
about like a trailer
he-
you'd pull behind a truck, right? Just
yeah,
pull in. Okay.
yeah. I presume it was an enclosed trailer because of the way that it describes it. But it did specifically say that the door to it had been wired shut and that they didn't use the trailer.
Okay.
So Terry, like I said, he was looking for them, and he ended up, I don't remember exactly how, but he ended up looking into this trailer, and he found them, all 4 of them lined up next to each other, like shoulder to shoulder, basically, inside of this trailer that was tiny, mind you, in what was described as a trance. I guess I believe
Yeah, the
he
reports
did
are weird on
something
that.
that
He-
made a noise.
Yeah, because some people say he slapped, like he banged on the
He shouted.
trailer,
that's
which
what it
I was to say.
Yeah,
I
it
think
says
I was to say
he
to
shouted
me-
for his wife, which woke the bulls from their trance, and then they panicked and they ended up kicking. They ended up kicking the back of the trailer off, and they left the trailer that way.
Wait, so this trailer was outside of the corral that these guys were in then, because didn't it take him him and his wife like 2 hours to get these suckers back in?
Yeah. Now that
forgot about that.
now that you mentioned that, I did forget about
That's
that as well.
right.
Yes, it did take them a while to get them back into the fence. So they ended up kicking the back of the trailer off, and that it specifically mentioned that the trailer was tiny and that the only door had been wired shut. And then when the scientists and stuff showed up, there were still cobwebs on the inside of the door, so it wasn't like they opened the door.
Wasn't like
basically
Terry
the
did this then.
The cow, the bulls just got in there, apparently magically, like they
It would
just
have to be.
warped
You
through
ever-
the wall.
I know we briefly talked about it in the last episode, but like, could you imagine two bulls in two separate fields will like go at each other, right? Like, remember Becky and Uncle Steve's living down there in their property, how the road separated the two fields, and those bulls would like try to fight each other, and that one broke loose the one year, and he like jumped. But point being, they hate each other, right? So to get four bulls smashed in shoulder to shoulder and just be like, this is fine. This is totally fine. It's very weird. And for, like you said, the corral gate, which I guess isn't that big of a detail, because they said that the gate was where they had them initially was closed up, so it wasn't open. But, like, if they're the ones doing this, he could have very easily, like, opened it and closed it. But for that trailer that got kicked out, because it was old, they kicked out the back end, which was, like, a welded part that was shut. So to be clear, for in case people are confused on, like, we just had the door open. No, what we're saying is, like, they kicked open, like, an old back part of the door, knocked it down. The actual door that would flip open for the cattle to walk in was still closed, like Mike is saying, wired shut, and had, upon examination by the NIDS team, because he called them out, old cobwebs were still in place. So this is a clear indication, in my opinion, that something very strange took place.
They got beamed up.
Yeah. Beam me up,
beamed
Scotty.
right back down.
Yeah. That, to me, is a weird one. You're also a little
And then
weird.
it also mentioned that the fence had been magnetized, which led them to test the property for, whatever caused it to be magnetized.
Which is weird because it kind of does nothing. I know it's like a detail in the story, but it is weird how like, every time they tell these stories, like when Terry and them would tell them, like, oh, you're still a little bit blurry, Mike. But they would be like, hey, this is going on or that's going on. And like, this is one of those incidents where like, and then at the very last thing, the fence was magnetized. Which, to be fair, though, it did dissipate over the next course of the next couple of days. The level of magnetism disappeared as if it had never been there. But in the grand scheme of things, it's like it still doesn't give us jack squat on answers or even the reason as to why. Like, what would have been the purpose on this? The only tie to this is the fact that his wife was actually concerned about it, and then it messed with her again a little bit. So I just think there's like a ghost who's like a stand-up comedian, and he's hilarious in the interdimensional world, and he was like, guys, watch this, and he did this. I just don't see, there's no real reason behind this. He didn't actually butcher anything. He didn't, you know what I mean? Like, to me, I don't know, this is all strange. All the stories are strange in this whole place anyways, but like, every time they mention something, you're like, it doesn't get us any closer to answers. You're just bringing more questions to the table. We never get an answer, it seems. I mean, am I wrong?
No.
No. Maybe I'm just thinking about it too much. But continue. So, 4 bulls. They ended up being okay,
They
I
ended
guess,
up,
though,
they ended up corralling them and getting them back into the fence and whatnot.
all anuses remained intact.
yeah.
No worries.
No
which is good.
6-inch gaping holes.
No melted buttery flesh of dogs or nothing like that.
It said that later that month, so I presume this is also April, that Cullum Kelleher, I don't know what his last name is,
I know what you're
was
talking
investigating
about.
some strange tracks when an overpowering musk.
There's that word again. God,
Yeah.
well, you know it's going to be trouble when the musk smell pops back
And
up.
that he had the hair stood up on the back of his neck. He got chills down his spine. We've all had that moment, I think, where you get the chill like down your spine, and you're just like you feel all eerie, and I think we probably all had that. And
Darn it, I'm feeling it right now just listening to you.
It also mentioned that he had the feeling of being watched, and he felt a presence. There was another person that was working close by him, and I guess they didn't talk about it during this incident, but afterward they talked about it, and the person that was working around him also mentioned that he had the same kind of feeling, like someone was watching him, feeling like a presence, the musk smell. And he also added that the compass that he had started pointing towards where the scent was coming from the strongest.
See, now
instead
that's
of being
interesting to me
north.
too, because like we all know that when you're around something for a while, you can go nose blind. Who knows how long you're smelling this? But that's interesting that he could detect that, like, like we all smell like something cooking.
I mean, I feel
smells
like
really good,
there's
but,
a
like,
significant smell. You can definitely come up like
yeah,
you can tell which direction it's coming from.
yeah. I guess that's
so-
true. Fair point.
Oh, and then it said that the compass started working again after the smell had gone. So that's
Ooh, really quick thing, because I'm almost dead positive we don't have it in the notes for what I sent you originally. I'm going to share one story real quick, because this actually I'm 95% sure this took place before the NIDS got there. But if it didn't, forgive me. I apologize. So one last crazy story about Terry and his son. There was actually one point where, excuse me, no, actually, this is while NIDS is there. This is while NIDS was there, because they set up, this was not long after the incident with the calf happened, being completely stripped down, that they set up all the surveillance. Do you have, I don't know if you got that in the notes coming up, or... No? Okay, so what they ended up doing was, they said, all right, because instead of just Terry finding these things or finding tracks or whatever, let's put up cameras. You went a little blurry again, Micah. I'm sorry. He just hates me for telling him that.
dude, just don't worry about it.
Anyways, so they put up all these cameras that supposedly basically run 24/7 in a 360-degree angle nonstop, right? Like, we're going to catch it. But the only part that made me laugh a little bit, guess how many cameras they put up? Like, this multi-billionaire. Guess how many cameras?
3.
6. He put up 6. Like, 6 cameras. I swallowed wrong. Holy crap. Okay, they knew I was about to tell the important part there, so it was like, I gotta stop this. Wow. But the point being, so I thought it was personally a little bit funny, personally. But he puts up 6 cameras, okay, covering these spots where they had the hot zones, what they considered the hot zones, and there are 3 big tripod, or the big stands out there with the dogs and all that stuff. So anyways, they're like, if something happens, we're going to catch it on camera now. But then, while Terry's out there one time with him and his son, the freaking cattle break through a fence, so now they're off camera. They run into a alfalfa field that happened to be a neighboring farm, and Terry doesn't think a big deal, doesn't think much about it at first, because it's whatever, but he doesn't want his cattle to get sick from eating too much alfalfa. So, and plus it's not his. So he calls his son, who for whatever reason was there this day or something, to come help him, and they're going to, like, on their horseback, try to corral these suckers back in. Well, as they're going over to do this, he notices these 2 one red orb just appear. And when I say small, or I guess I didn't say small, but it's a small one. It's like, literally, he said the size of a golf ball, which that's freaking tiny. So, I mean, I don't know how close this thing was to him or what, but he said this thing was sitting here, like, circling around kind of by his horse. It was getting, fussy or whatever. And then it freaking ran over to the cattle, was stirring them up. Like, it got in one bull's face in particular and was getting them riled up, so that him and his son were unable to get these suckers back through the fence, right? Like, it's pushing them, and it's like splitting them up. And then a second one appears, continuing to split the cattle into 2 different directions, like we've talked about before, how it would split them kind of deal. And him and his son are having issues trying to get this. It's weird to me that we're just talking about it like it's totally normal. Him and his son's like, darn it, the lights are back again. You're gonna have to deal with this, I guess. But okay, so here's the only crazy part and why I mentioned the story, because this is freaking insane. So had it just ended there, I'd have been like, whatever. But I guess him and his son actually start to get these cattle back through the fence, or getting close to it, and the freaking light charges his horse, gets in his horse's face and starts making it go crazy, and the horse, like, loses it and starts running for a cliff. It just starts charging this cliff, and it does not stop. Terry had to leap off of his horse. His horse leapt 20 plus feet to the ground below, and I guess got up unscathed, because it says his freaking horse lands, gets up like nothing's happened, and then starts to try and climb back up. Terry's laying on the ground, looking down, like, holy crap, I just lost the horse. Looks back, and then both the orbs drive both of the cattle, because I forgot about that. There was like a creek running by the alfalfa. It's driving them towards that, which had a drop off. And it all the cattle just run off the cliff, and I think he lost 4 cattle in this incident, but it ran them off the cliff. But we've talked about how people haven't really been hurt; it's just been animals. Fair enough, only animals hurt in this one, but like Terry had to jump off the back of a horse. So again, not that it's like the most imperative, because it's like, I don't know why we tell these stories like this is the story that's gonna break everything open for you right here. Like, no, it's just gonna be more weirdness. So. But it's worth mentioning because to me, I thought that was freaking crazy. This horse, I don't know how far a horse can normally jump and be okay, but 20 feet to me seems insane. A 20-foot jump as a, 2,000 to 3,000 pound animal, like that's a huge jump. Anyways, they ended up getting him back, but the point being was that once the NIDS team had set up these cameras, that's what happened. He's like, yeah, all this crazy crap just went down. My horse leapt off. And they're like, cool story, bro, but none of it's on camera. So maybe it happened. Maybe it didn't happen. Oh, and to cap it all off, I guess if you're ending the story, his wife, I think this was around the time of the calf because his wife was in the truck on the property. So this was around that time. He gets back to the truck to tell her what happened. He's freaking telling her this crazy story. And they look over their son, I think Tad? Was that their son's name? I know we were calling him Billy. But anyways, his horse, or the light, these little golf ball sized red glowing globes, they see it circling around their son's head, like above him as he's riding back towards them. Never ends up doing anything, but they seen this, and he mentioned that he felt like he'd been watched as well, but he never seen anything. So I don't know. It's just some other weird story I'm putting in there that doesn't take us anywhere, but it was worth mentioning because it's freaking weird, and it's meant to confuse you even more. So
I think all of this is kind of weird.
Anyway, so I apologize. Where did we leave off with you?
We left off with Eric and Colum surveying the homestead.
Yes.
So it's nighttime, and then Eric had some night vision goggles, I guess, that he was surveying the woods with. So like the woods and the surrounding property, he was just kind of looking around.
Yeah.
And
light spectrum for the human eye sucks. We don't really see that much. I mean, really, we really don't see much.
And I guess Eric had some type of camera for like watching the sky, I guess. So he was taking pictures of the sky. Eric was looking around with these night vision goggles.
He'd like Black Ops up in there.
The dogs started like yelping and cowering, and for me, like that's kind of,
we're going melted butter puppy again. Here we go.
So Eric ended up taking a sharp breath. He was well, probably not like that, but
that was intense.
But like,
yeah. Oh my god.
Anyway. And then I have a quote. He says, "Jesus, there's something in the trees over there. A huge black thing."
That's his exact quote.
Unquote. Unquote. Yep. It does mention that Colum did not see it. Because he had the camera without the night vision.
That's what bugs me about that.
And then it goes to another quote from Eric. That said, "It's big. I'm not sure if it's in the trees or behind the trees. It's moving north." Unquote. Colum tried to take pictures, and then Eric yelled out. Yes. Eric yelled out, "It's got me. It's saying we are watching you." Unquote.
Ooh.
So it's
now
like,
this is a first incident that's not a Terry-related incident.
That's true. This is the first incident.
Oh my goodness!
It's like it doesn't involve the family.
It's got
so
me.
it said, yeah. That's the quote is that, "It's got me. It says we are watching you." And then he continued muttering "Jesus Christ." Until he said it was moving away. And it also mentioned that Eric had no memory of this afterward.
Ooh, so like he was
so
like, whoa, what just happened?
Yeah, Colum remembers it, but Eric did not remember seeing it or anything like that. So that's kind of odd.
No, real quick. So is that the end of that story? Because I want to interrupt if
Yes.
you got more to... Okay, so really quick, let's dive into that just for 2 seconds. What the French toast, Robert? How much of a, like, little penny pincher are you that only one of the guys has the night vision goggles? What is going on? You only put up 6 cameras. You're like, guys, we're going to cover every inch of this 514 acres with 6 cameras from 1997 that will be able to see nothing. And we're going to assign you guys 1, maybe 2 night vision. I don't. To be fair, I think it did say that. Oh my goodness, I apologize. Who was the person helping him? Not the guy with the night vision. Eric, not Eric.
Column.
Thank you, Column. He was monitoring. It said some equipment. I forgot about that. It did say he was monitoring some equipment, so maybe there was lighting on the equipment. Obviously, you couldn't be looking at that with the night vision goggles because it would blind you. Perhaps that was the reason, but I also think it's crazy that like Column's trying to take pictures like in the dark. Like, okay, 1997 camera, just like.
I mean, it's better than not trying to get any pictures.
It is, but those pictures ended up showing nothing. Like when they printed them or when they got
didn't
developed,
show
they
anything.
literally had nothing. It was just like, ooh, look at nothing.
Yeah.
It's just nothing. All right. Anyways,
No, that happened sometime between August and April.
of 96.
I don't have of 97. I don't have
that's
a
right. Because
specific
96 was
date.
like freaking quiet. I forgot about that. That was like when nothing happened.
The end of 96, there was only
Yeah.
lights in the sky. And then in
Oh my God.
August,
Hey,
there was-
yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Sorry, if anybody's wondering this about us, I was born in August, so
there was a they noticed what they referred to as a growing tunnel.
what? Wait, back up.
That
Hang
just
on.
like
Wait a
so
minute. Let's.
you know that there was the what Terry described, like the light that had
Oh, when he was going out there on his
like
stump,
a sky,
yeah, and he would just
it
like.
had sky on the back, like in this like basically
guess-
like a portal.
I must have misunderstood you because you just said you described like you said a growing tunnel. Like what was leading up to this? I guess or what like maybe we don't know the
I
details.
I don't remember. See, when I wrote these notes, I thought we were gonna go all over it. You know, we were gonna go over them, so
Oh,
everything
in
was
one
fresh
night?
in my head, and I was like,
I'm
I
almost
got
dead
this, no
positive
problem.
this incident had to do with it was Eric as well again, right?
I don't.
I want to say it was
I
him.
don't recall.
I could be wrong. Or Colum and somebody else. But they were looking at some prints. Like it was near the end of the day. They were up in the air a little bit, so they're not like they were looking down in the ravine. You know what I mean? Like there was a drop off.
That sounds.
Yeah, they were
familiar.
looking at some prints or whatever, and then I think he
It was
did have
something like a
night vision
blue
goggles
light or
again. It was the
something.
night vision
I
goggles.
don't think it was. No, I don't think it was. I don't think it was night out.
I thought it was because it
during
mentioned that the other guy could only see what he described. He thought was just a small glow, and the person with the night vision goggles was the one saying, like, "Holy crap! That like I can see into this thing. Like it's not just a light. Like it's like you just described a tunnel."
this. Yeah. You might
Sorry,
be right about that one.
I know it's been a while since I lectured
That's
too.
good. It's good.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
So this growing tunnel was noticed by them, and as you said, I think I do recall that one person could see it clearly.
Yeah.
And the person can only see a small
Again, because
portion.
Robert's like, only one. You'll get that one, and that is all I do.
But they mentioned that there was the black featureless creature.
This is
that
freaking messed
crawled
up.
out on its hands and knees out of this.
Dude, that's so creepy. Like hands and knees, or it's elbows. It says it's elbows. I remember that 'cause that creeped me out because I was like, hands and knees make sense, right? Like even though it's hard for human or anybody, you're blurry again. I'm sorry, I can't help but tell you. Your hands and your knees, but your hands and knees, whatever. But like elbows, you guys can't see unless you're watching me on YouTube because I'm totally doing like elbow moves here right now. It's like pretty sweet. But anyways, elbows and knees, that's freaking creepy. And the fact that something's crawling out of another dimension, in my opinion, and it says it freaking ran up, like didn't run up the hill. It says
it ran
150
up
yards
the-
away or something like that.
Ran up the ridge, and I think it said it ran about 30 feet away
Yeah,
from
because they
them.
could literally hear. That's the only reason the other person who could only see a glow didn't have the night vision on. The only reason he knew that this person who had the night vision goggles on was probably telling the truth because he heard it. They said it got within like 30 yards of him. He could hear the branches or like something on the ground breaking from it running. Because I forgot about this. It said that it ran at like
Yeah,
an
I believe
unhumanly
it-
speed.
yeah.
Up,
Yeah, it
like it
was-
was 150 yards away, and then it was like, holy crap! It just ran right by us. And then again,
and then it also mentioned the musk odor.
oh, of course,
Yeah.
God forbid we forget the musk. I mean,
At least we know where it's coming from.
right? Dude, that's okay. That is freaking weird. I mean, something literally crawled out of that. According to, and then this was not
and
scary.
that is one of
are,
the last incidents that it specifically mentions.
It was worth mentioning. And again, guys,
yeah.
remember, we're mentioning the big stuff. There's a lot of other stuff, lights and minor incidents.
Yeah,
these were
the lights. They said was like a daily occurrence. Was that was pretty common. Far as like the blue and the orange orbs that were around the ranch. And then it said 1998, most incidents began to fall. So there wasn't very many in 1998. And by 2004, the NIDS team moved on. And then it also mentioned that there was pictures taken, but all of them were either like blurry. They were at night, so you couldn't really make it out. There was no
it's freaking 1990s cameras too. Like,
yeah, there was
no
there
offense,
was no
guys.
like there was no definite picture of like, yep, this really happened. This is 100% proof.
That's right.
And it did also mention that the NIDS board rejected all of their pictures and that kind of stuff as not significant. And it did mention that there were hundreds of eyewitnesses that had been around or on the ranch. So the neighbors and some people that came to visit the ranch and that kind of stuff said that they also saw weird things happen and that kind of stuff.
There was a study out. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That concludes what I have as notes.
Nice. So two last things real quick, and I'm going to get Mike's opinion on some stuff. Following up with what you're talking about, the hundreds of eyewitnesses, it's claimed that in this particular area of Utah, 3 out of 4 people have had some sort of an experience, for sure, with lights, like UFOs, but even cryptid things, what's the word I'm looking for? Events that could have had a possible cryptid sighting of some sort, but 3 out of 4 people believe that they have experienced something weird in that area, not even having to do with just the ranch itself. But there is one other story I'm going to share really quickly, because I forgot it wasn't in the stuff that I sent over to you. So you remember how I said they had those 6 cameras, right? They were like, we're going to put these up. So from that, they end up having an incident where the next morning, or whoever was checking the cameras realizes that all the cameras are offline. So they're like, what the French toast? Like, every single camera is just gone. So they go to investigate it to see what's going on. Excuse me. And all of the cameras, you know how you wrap up wiring because it's old school, so there was a lot of wires. They were all duct taped, right? All the duct tape had been unraveled. All the cameras had been pulled, or the wiring from them had been pulled out, and the aluminum's not super strong, but what was holding them up had all been bent. So they were all bent and they were all pulled. Now, what was weird was that every single camera, when they checked they were like, well, let's go back and watch the cameras. They all cut out at the exact same time. So not like, hey, boop, boop, boop. No, it was literally, boop, they all cut out, and then that's what they found. Again, doesn't really freaking matter. It's just, we could literally tell you stories like that all night long here. We could continue to tell you stories that really add nothing to this outside of making it even more frustrating and weird. So I guess we'll kind of leave it there. Before we go into what's going on currently, which isn't really much to cover, but worth mentioning, closing thoughts, Micah. What the French toast is going on here?
I don't know.
The people have been waiting. They want your answers. Give the people the answers.
I think there's a couple possibilities.
Nice.
Yeah. So one possibility is that it's all complete BS, made up for publicity or some other such kind of thing. Someone that wants to get famous off of this, or I don't know.
I could see that, but then nobody's
they never
really...
they never turned it into an amusement park or anything like that. But there's still time. I mean, they could.
They could. Well, he sold out. Robert Bigelow, if anything, he took a hit on this, right? I mean, he never really probably. I mean, I guess again, he was a billionaire, so when we say a hit, but it's probably fair to say he owned it from what 95, 96 ish.
Yeah, 90. The end of
to
96
2016, I believe, right?
2004 is when the NIDS team left, so they were no longer
Yeah.
looking into.
Who had it in between then? Because the next guy we're going to mention didn't even purchase it until 2016. I think the NIDS team pulled out in 2004, but Robert still owned the property during that time. So he's owned it up until 2016. So he owned it for almost 2 decades, for 20 years. But the NIDS team was completely shut down. That whole, their organization, and we could even talk about some of the stuff they studied. There were some other things that they looked into besides just Skinwalker Ranch. But that all got folded up, basically. I mean, it's... anyways, so keep going, sorry.
There's that possibility. There's the possibility that there's a bunch of people that like drugs. There's a possibility that maybe there is like this is a hot area for like
it's a weakening in the
interdimensional travel. I don't know. But it did mention. So the part that I would say is kind of odd if it was something like interdimensional beings, would be that clearly that whatever entity this was, and at the very end they specifically mentioned that is that the scientists felt like whatever it was 2 steps ahead of them at all times. So anytime that they had cameras set up or something would happen off the camera.
Just
when
outside
they were
too.
prepared
like
for it. Yeah, anytime they were expecting it in a certain situation or whatever, it would happen in another area.
Well, the guys down there from Cabin in the Woods, they were watching, and they were like, all right, they're in this location, so release the elbow foot crawler over here. And
yeah, I mean, it's possible. It's possible that this is like some type of huge, like
mass psychosis
psychiatric, psychiatric.
Well, they're psychiatric, but they usually call it a
experiment to see how people would react to this kind of stuff.
Like you're thinking a military kind of idea.
There's like military technology that they're exploring. And nobody's really gonna believe some moron.
Well, and not only that,
claiming that there's no blood coming out of the cattle.
I mean, honestly, I maybe we need to look into this more. I need to, because cattle mutilations have always had a correlation with my hot topic, which is UFOs and aliens. But there's also this underlying storyline behind that of like, no, there's totally reasonable explanations behind this. There's cult activity and other stuff that goes right into that. But to have no blood, I don't know. I'm sure it's possible because we as human beings can figure out anything we want to do. But just for Terry and his wife to do this and the time frames that things were taking place, matters of 25, 30 minutes, which you guys might thinking that's a lot of time. Listen, to butcher an animal and then have no blood on the ground,
an animal as big as a cow,
literally impossible. Like, there's no way, natural causes, there's no way an animal dies.
Killing an animal is not really a natural cause, so
fair point. But I'm trying to say is there's no way to cut this animal and it not bleed. That's the most puzzling thing out of it all. Beyond the whole, this thing just freaking crawled out and ran at like lightning speed across 150 yards, and then a musky smell on its knees and elbows. Because they said it was a humanoid-looking like creature, right? It was black, but
featureless. Yeah, it's like a humanoid, featureless black creature.
That's so freaking
it kind
weird.
of looked like a human, but it didn't have any features. So,
would you even want to stay there and investigate?
kind of
Like,
thing.
how much money was he paying these guys? Like, well, I don't know that I want to stay there.
No, I'm pretty sure if I seen, I mean, like, maybe that's what they signed up for, but I would probably be like, yeah, well, you can add another 0 to that salary, or I'm out of here.
True.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That what you just hit on was kind of my feelings too. It's so weird because this thing is literally, and this has kind of been coined the term for it now. It's like the what do they call it? The what's the Disney World of Paranormal? Because it's like literally everything. There's the only 2 repeating things that we're getting. The only 2 is, and it's not even 100% the same every time with this, but the cattle disappearance or mutilations, which varied as far as what's missing and how much. And then the only repeating thing that's, again, still a little bit of a variance is the lights. But those changing colors and the effects, because sometimes it's just, oh yeah, there's lights in that area, versus freaking my dogs chase the lights, and now I found a pile of just blech in the morning, and it's just flesh that's melted. Like, I don't know, man. It's just...
Yeah,
but
there's a lot of strange things.
It is. And listen. I know I've poked fun at Terry and what his family went through this, and I really probably shouldn't, because if this is a real event that happened to this guy, like, I legitimately, when listening to this story too, I was like, I feel bad for this guy. Like, and I've obviously talked and listened to this particular subject a couple times, and initially your first response, probably what your guys' response has been listening to this, has been like, what the French toast ever, like, this is bullcrap, this guy's making this up. But then it's like, if this did happen though, like, what does that mean? Maybe it means nothing, because we still have gotten really no real answers, but it definitely has got to bring to light a few things for us to say. We've got to evaluate some things a little differently. And I don't know. It's weird, too, that Robert Bigelow was the only person who's ever set up a science team of that size and that well-funded, even though they weren't that well-funded if they were sharing freaking, well, night vision goggles and only 6 cameras. But anyways, nobody's really studying what you could qualify as, like, pseudoscience, or, you know what I mean, the paranormal as a real legitimate thing.
You're only going to lose money on it.
Absolutely
you don't really
agreed.
Have a potential
I
of making
listen.
money.
I completely agree with that. I understand that, but I also wonder if it's almost like by default. What I mean by that is, so in science, if you believe something, you're going to test something or put forth a hypothesis, you're going to put it forward. Other scientists are going to try and literally burn your idea. They put it before the flames and they try to light it on fire. And if they can't destroy your hypothesis, then it becomes true, right? It's tested, and now it becomes a theory. It's not just an idea. It's been tested, and they were able to get the same results that you got. But in this instance, you couldn't even try to get the same results more than once, because you're not even getting the same problem more than once. I don't know. And my point being is that you can't, most scientists, especially throughout the 80s and 70s and all that stuff, are not going to have been taking any of this in a serious manner. Because there's, like you just said, there's no money in it. Unless you somehow get hired by a billionaire who just has fun trying to study this kind of stuff, you're not going to make any money in, like, being a cryptozoologist. I mean, they're kind of getting more popular now, but, like, that's not, unless you find a rare breed of some chimpanzee or an ape or a species that we thought was extinct. And even then, how much money do you really make? Anyways, I'm going on a tangent that doesn't matter. I agree with what you're saying as far as my only conclusions are interdimensional. What gets weird for me is the tunnels. The tunnels opening, because we had at least 2 instances, at least, right, where that happened. We know for at least the one instance where Terry was looking through a scope and said it was nighttime here, but there was daylight on that side. And then we have the instance of being nighttime again and something crawling. Obviously, it was light where it's at, and then it crawls out into this. I don't know. Maybe it's like totally like Monsters, Inc., man. Like, they're just banishing different creatures. Just like, open the portal to Skinwalker Ranch in Utah. Put them in the desert. Let them have it. See what happens. I don't get it. I don't know. But yeah, that's that's kind of my closing thought on it, as far as wrapping up that end of it. Besides possibly military stuff involved, Yeah, that's not out of the realm of possibility. I want to say there's a super crap. My brain's gonna fail me right now. There is a super famous, not famous, um, military complex out there. I sent a link to you. We said we were gonna cover this back in like episode 7. They study like bio warfare. Like what's the term I'm looking for here? Bio something.
Yeah.
Crap. My brain is not working tonight. But
Bioweapons.
chemistry, bioweapons, yeah. But the point being, oh man, I really wish I knew the name of this place. But it's right there by Salt Lake City. Excuse me, in Utah. So is it crazy to think that there couldn't be any military involvement? I don't know, maybe. But anyways, that is pretty much where everything wrapped up there. 2004, NIDS was shut down. Robert closed it basically down due to lack of activity and just losing money. And then it just sat there. The only thing that Robert ever did change, too, if he was trying to make this an amusement park, was I think he changed the sign and a front gate, I think. Other than that, they left everything alone. They didn't really mess with this place at all. And then this gentleman named Brandon Fugal? I don't know, it's Fugal. Brandon purchased it in 2016 from him. But the only condition that Robert would sell the property under was that I will sell you the property, but the scientific study needs to continue. We need the study of science has to continue here. So it was purchased under that agreement. And a little bit of background on Brandon. He is owner. He now owns the Skinwalker Ranch as the chairman of the Colliers International in Utah. I don't know what that is, but he is one of the most prominent businessmen and real estate developers in the Intermountain West. Now, the only thing I think is funny about this guy, so he's made all his money from real estate. Just that's how he's made his money. But the what was it that we looked up? Remember, you and I were talking about it before the episode began because we thought it was funny. What was it? Antimonium. What was it called? Do you remember that? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think it's antimonium.
Antimonium. Yeah, but anyway, so it's like, do they think that that's there? Like, is that what they're digging for? I don't know. If you guys want, he got this in 2016, and I guess they started, I don't know when the exact filming began, but if you want it right now, you can go on the History Channel, and you can look up The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch. I think it airs every Tuesday, and I want to say they have 6 episodes up right now, I think. 6 episodes, something like that. I think today, what is today, Wednesday? Yeah, so yesterday an episode came out for them, so episode 6. Yeah. Now, I will say this about it. And he put together a whole team. He's got the same thing. He's got a security team. He's got the whole thing like the NIDS had, where he got this guy as a scientist, blah, 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 blah. I will say this. I'm a little worried about what they're doing to this place. As far as, like, the study of it, okay, they went way more high-tech, to be fair. There's a guy named Eric Bard, I think his name is, and he's, like, their guru on, like, literally, like, actually putting cameras everywhere, like actually videoing everything now versus like we put 6 cameras up on 514 acres. But their like dialogue is god awful. Like it was so bad I almost didn't try the second episode because it was scripted badly. Like you could see him sitting at the table and he's like, "We will now introduce Travis Taylor," which is a pretty interesting guy. Guy's got a ton of PhDs and stuff. He's done a ton of stuff for the Department of Defense. He even gives speeches to, I think it's the Air Force, on how to defend Earth from an alien invasion. He gives that speech every single year to the officers, the graduating officers, and somebody else. So people, like, they actually educate our guys on that, which, okay, you're just covering your bases to be safe, but, I mean, they're educating their guys on how to defend us from aliens.
How do you educate somebody on that?
I don't know, but that's why we're not in the Air Force. So, listen, all I know is Space Force, mother trucker, and Trump wasn't playing around. Okay. So, anyways, he brings in this guy, and they've got all the other guys on this thing, and they're talking and stuff, but the dialogue is not good. That is the part that I'm having a hard time getting over, is that, like, they had a phone call one time. Okay, the only thing that I'm bringing it up for, to say that's worth talking about, is Travis wanted to do the same thing. So he gets brought onto the team, and like they're going to bring him out there, and they say, "Hey, we've been studying this place," and blah, blah, blah. They give him all the background. He's like, "Well, let's dig. Let's see what's going on." Because he's like, we've got something. They now know that magnetic is a huge thing out there. Like there's a massive magnetic field that seems to fluctuate, and some lights and stuff like that as well. But remember how we said there's never been once a human hurt? That's changed. It possibly has changed. There's a gentleman named Thomas Wintern, I think. And because the first thing that Travis wanted to do when he got out there was like, let's dig. Let's see what's down there that's causing these, if we're having issues with like magnetism or whatever, like there should be signs of this, right? We should find elements that would indicate that. And they're all like, dude, mother trucker, we don't dig on this property because the TV show, we got to make it dramatic, so we don't be doing that on here. And anyways, Thomas tried to dig supposedly on the property when he first got out there, and he was, I think, in a backhoe, and then all of a sudden his head just started pounding. They had to rush him to the emergency room, so like for no good reason, his head, like just splitting headache, right? He ended up almost freaking dying. He had to go into emergency surgery for those of you that might be watching me on YouTube, but if you're not, imagine from the back of your neck, like right about where you could picture your spinal cord connecting to your skull. He started feeling this, like that's where the headache started out, and it spread up into about the top part of the crown of his head, and he had this massive freaking like egg-like size welt and swelling. It started in his whole brain. They had, like, I forget how long he was under, like 2 weeks or something. Like he almost died from this. For literally, they kept telling him, they're like, we don't know. You're having massive fluid retention, and something else was going on, and there was no indication as to why. The doctor said they'd never seen anything like it. I'm going to the show. I'm on episode getting ready to go into 3, and he just had another incident from them testing something out one night. So I don't know. The show reminds me a little bit of like any of the like Bigfoot hunter shows or like Oak Island kind of deal, like where they're just like, we're gonna just keep teasing for you, and it's gonna be scripted. And yeah, I hope they don't ruin it. And listen, if nothing else, we're at least getting the name out there more. People should know about this place. Dan, thank you, or Daniel. I don't know. I just call him Dan. I don't know. Nobody calls him Daniel but his wife or his mom. Probably his mom. Nobody calls him that. But anyways, Dan, thank you for bringing this place to our attention. I already kind of knew about it a little bit, but I did not know the depth of this thing. And I only have come away now with more questions than answers, to be fair. And I apologize to you guys that we don't have the answers, but if literally
nobody does.
3 decades worth of scientists have dedicated their life to trying to make answers out of this and got nothing, I don't feel that bad about it, to be honest. So that's about it. That's where it currently sits right now. That's what's going on. I mean, I guess the stories will continue. The mystery will continue to evolve about the place known as Skinwalker Ranch, and that's about it. I mean, there's more to this. There's always going to be more to it. So, but that's really about it. That's sorry guys if you were excited to come in here and get answers tonight. We
Part 2 is a big flop.
Yeah, no, not a flop. You did a great job.
Flop for answers.
Oh, yeah, answers? Yeah. Oh, well, I think anybody who even has slightly heard about Skinwalker Ranch and saw we were covering it kind of knew, like the only time I ever click on Skinwalker Ranch to hear new people talk about it is just to see if they covered something different or got a new piece of information that I didn't know about, So hopefully you learned something from this one, and if nothing else, you're at least entertained on how weird this freaking place is. So, do you think if, for the fun of it, let's say Brandon opens this thing up as an amusement park, and he's like, for $1,000 you can spend a week here. Do you think you'd go stay? Like, would you
no.
really? No.
No.
People make so much money off that, like buying people stay at haunted houses and stuff. You know what I mean? You can go. Where's it? The hotel where that the lady, she killed her parents and all that stuff. I can't remember what's at, but you can pay to go to these weird places where famous people have died, or people are into that. I'm just saying. I'm sure
people
the
are
guy could turn
weird.
a profit. True, fair enough. But I mean, we literally end our show saying keep it weird. So I mean, I do at least. I mean, I'm kind of okay with that. Anything you want to add before we get out of here for tonight? Nope. Okay. Hashtag Broners and
Yeah, I was gonna say it.
What were you gonna say it?
Blue balls.
Blue balls. Yeah, that could be well, it was orbs technically, but he did say blue balls. The fact that he changed that instead of just saying everything else had been orbs. Man, it was an orange, orange orb or whatever. But no, with the blue balls. I was like, come on, man. Anyways, as always, guys, keep it weird. Oh wait, mother trucker. Dang it. Now dang it. Dang it, Micah. You say it now. All right,
Stay
guys.
curious and keep it weird.
That's right. Let's get out of here.